Hello, and welcome to episode 7 of the BigSlice Gamescast. I am your host, Corey Stroby, and with me I have Jessica.
Hello.
So we kind of have a lot to get through. There wasn't anything super huge to talk about, but there are a couple stories in here that are relatively important. We'll start with a quick one first. Mario Kart Tour release date announced. This is by IGN. This is Adam Bankhurst over at IGN. Mario Kart Tour will be released on iOS and Android devices on September 25th, 2019. Announced by Nintendo, it asks fans to follow at Mario Kart Tour EN for, quote, more information heading into the game's release. I'm guessing that's over on Twitter. So you can follow at Mario Kart Tour EN. The E and the N are both capital. Continuing, it says, pre-orders are now live on iOS, and the game's page gives further details as to what Mario Kart fans can expect when they play Nintendo's beloved racing franchise on mobile devices. Mario and friends will be racing around, quote, courses inspired by real-world cities in addition to classic Mario Kart courses, which will rotate every 2 weeks. Some characters will even have outfits that match the, quote, local flavor of cities featured in the game. Mario Kart Tour is meant to be played, quote, with just one finger, and it will allow you to steer, drift, use items, and more. There will also be a new frenzy mode that, quote, gives an unlimited supply of a certain item and makes you invincible, although only for a short time. Mario Kart Tour will be free to start and will incorporate in-game purchases, but players can earn grand stars by racing or, quote, fire off the featured pipe to receive more drivers, carts, and gliders. Players can also earn badges for completing challenges that can be displayed along with their name. Alongside their name. There will be bonus challenge courses which have goals that aren't as simple as placing in first, including versus Mega Bowser and Goomba Takedown. There will also be online play and leaderboards to see who the best racers in the world are. So it's the mobile version of Mario Kart, which sounds pretty fun. Is this something that you're gonna get?
Yeah, I mean it's free. I'm sure, they'll have quite a bit of in-app purchases you can get, but I'll definitely try it. Like when the Mario game came out, I can't remember exactly what it was called. Super Mario Run?
Mario Go. Oh, Run. Yeah, that's right.
Mario. Yeah, I did that for a little bit. I mean, I ended up losing interest after a little while, but I think this one might be a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I was kind of in the same boat. I was having a lot of fun with Super Mario Run for the first week or so.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just kind of lost interest. Not that it was a bad game, it wasn't hooking me like most other games were.
Right.
But it's still, for an iOS game, it's a really, really polished game. And the in-app purchases are basically just, you have the first 3 levels or something, and then you pay $10 and you get literally everything else.
Right.
So it's like you have a little 3-level demo, and then the entire game is $10, which is not bad at all.
No.
Even for a mobile game like that, but it's Nintendo, so you're getting high quality games either way.
Mm-hmm.
So $10 doesn't seem like that big of a deal. Whereas if you were paying $10 for some random game on the App Store, no one's going to pay that.
No.
But yeah, the other one, the most recent one that Nintendo came out with on iOS was the Dr. Mario one.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that, to be honest.
I don't remember what it's called. They mentioned it in the article, but I didn't put it in the notes.
Wasn't it just something like Dr. Mario RX, or am I thinking of one of the past games?
That might be a past game.
Oh, I think it's just Dr. Mario World.
Oh, yep, Dr. Mario World. But IGN said it was a fun but flawed take on the classic NES game. I feel like it would have done better if it was just literally Dr. Mario on the phone. Like if you had Tetris on the phone, which I don't even know if you can get Tetris on your phone, but
I don't see why not.
Uh,
Let's look it
yeah,
up.
Nintendo could
You can get
easily do
Tetris.
that. But yeah, so Mario Kart Tour comes out on the 25th. I'm probably going to play it. I have no idea if I'm going to stick with it, because that is coming up on fall. So like a bunch of games are going to be coming out.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a bunch of games from this week that are coming out. I'll get into that later, but so yeah, Mario Kart Tour comes out on the 25th. You can check it out when it comes out. It's about a month away. I'm sure I'll be playing it. Jessica, you said you'd be playing it a little bit, probably.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, so that's Mario Kart Tour. Getting onto a little bit of a heavier story. It's not
Topic?
like, yeah, it's not super bad, but it is pretty disappointing. For me especially. This one kind of hit me closer to home, but Game Informer lays off many staff. This is by Brendan Sinclair over at gamesindustry.biz. Game Informer has undergone a round of layoffs, according to a handful of now former employees. This was also on the 20th, so this was written as this was unfolding, so some of this might be a little bit outdated, but I'll talk a little bit more about it later on, or after I read this. But it continues. West Coast News editor Imran Khan, senior associate editor Kyle Hilliard, and associate editor Cyril Vasquez all posted on Twitter that they had been let go. Another laid-off employee posted on a private social media account that they had lost their job, along with many others. While GameStop has struggled in recent years, Game Informer has continued to be a mainstay in the gaming press. As of the end of 2018, it boasted a circulation of 6.6 million paid subscribers, including 2.1 million paid digital subscribers, enough to bill itself as the fifth largest consumer publication in the U.S. However, this year has already seen GameStop trim the brand back, as it shuttered Game Informer Australia in April. At the time of the shutdown, Game Informer Australia editor David Milner said readership for the magazine was up 19% year over year, even if ad sales had not kept pace. Andy McNamara on Twitter the following day said, quote, "I appreciate all the love. I see it. I feel it. I'm trying to get things right with my people. I love Game Informer, its people, its readers more than any corporation could, and I will address all the issues when I can, but for now I need to focus on my GI family." And I watched this as it was unfolding too. And it kind of hit me hard because Game Informer was, when I started looking into the game industry as like a career, Game Informer was basically my first window into the industry, and it's been like one of my favorite windows to look through since. I haven't had the time to read every article in the magazine since, but for like the first 3 years I did have that time. I would read every article in every magazine from, I want to say, August 2014. And I have every magazine since. Yeah, I have every magazine since. So it's like I'm reading the work of each of these editors like on a daily basis, and to see all of a sudden just a Thanos snap happen in the office.
Basically,
yeah, all of them, like a bunch of them just left, and it's like, holy crap, this sucks. I am happy that Imran Khan actually, a couple days after that, got hired at Kinda Funny with Greg Miller and Tim Geddes and all of them, which I'm super happy about. I think he's going to be a great fit there. The rest of them, I haven't heard anything yet. I'm sure they're still working on that. But Andy McNamara, the editor-in-chief, well, let me open this. He posted on Game Informer just kind of a Dear Game Informer community letter that I'll go ahead and read right from the website. This will be linked in the show notes as well. I'm sure I can fit a screenshot of the actual post too in the video version. But it says, "Dear Game Informer community, Yesterday, as part of a GameStop restructuring plan, our parent company eliminated the positions of about 120 employees across its various offices. We lost 7 members of our team, our cohorts, compatriots, and friends, out of our 38 team members. They shaped us and made us who we are today, just like every member of the Game Informer team who passes through this company. Here's the official statement from GameStop. It says, quote, "As part of the previously announced GameStop Reboot initiative to transform our business for the future and improve our financial performance, we can confirm a workforce reduction was implemented impacting more than 120 corporate staff positions, representing approximately 14% of our total associate base at our company headquarters as well as at some other offices. While these changes are difficult, they were necessary to reduce costs and better align the organization with our efforts to optimize the business to meet our future objectives and success factors. We recognize that this is a difficult day for our company and particularly for those associates impacted. We appreciate their dedication and service to GameStop and are committed to supporting them during this time of transition." He continues saying, "I'm saddened by yesterday's news. The Game Informer team means the world to me. You, our readers, who have supported us over the years, mean the world to us. I can't thank them or you enough. We appreciate the love that is poured out for Game Informer and the affected team members. Matt Burtz, Elise Favis, JV Gwaltney, Kyle Hilliard, Imran Khan, Jeff Marchiafava, and Suriel Vasquez. They are so talented and so passionate. Please support them if you are hiring. Each of them has my highest, most glowing recommendation. For now, Game Informer lives to fight another day. Your support is appreciated. Your support is appreciated. Cheers, Andy." So that was kind of a big bummer. It was happening during a very, very busy week. Gamescom was happening last week. I think the Disney D23 conference was happening. So there was just a ton of news that was coming out. The whole Spider-Man thing was happening as well. The whole Apex story that we focused on last week was also still kind of unfolding. So last week was a pretty heavy week. Some good news, some bad. But this kind of creeped out during, I don't know, sometime during the Spider-Man fiasco, which did not end well. But yeah, that was kind of happening during all of this. But it is pretty sad. I am glad that Imran did find another place. He said that he's going to continue to do. He was on the Kind of Funny Games Daily Show last Friday. Whoops. So I think he'll still be able to. He's going to be doing freelancing and stuff. I guess with him being at Game Informer for this amount of time, apparently, as soon as he announced that he lost his job there, a bunch of people started coming to him for freelance work. So it's like him finding freelance work is not going to be hard at all.
Yeah. Good for him, though.
I think it's going to be the same for a lot of them. Game Informer being as big as they were, or big as they are, excuse me. They're not going anywhere, and just they had to cut a few people.
Well, not yet.
Yeah, not yet. With this whole GameStop thing, I'm worried for Game Informer because even though they're a really popular magazine, the fact that they're even able to continue to compete with a print magazine says quite a bit about their success. But it's like their parent company is GameStop, so it's like they have no control over what happens. So it's like, even if Game Informer becomes the #1 magazine in the world, it won't matter if GameStop's funds continue to go down, which they will. Their stock is continuing to drop as far as I know. I think they had a little bit of a spike at some point, but obviously not enough to keep them afloat because they're still making cuts.
Right.
I have their stock on my phone, actually. I can look at it. So GameStop.
Now it's 3.71. Last time I checked, I think it was like around 4.2 or 4.8. And that was a few weeks ago when we last looked. So it's dropping like crazy.
June 11th, I think, looks like their most recent high. Or June 12th, excuse me, which was at 5.5. It is currently at 3.7. It did drop all the way down to 3.3 a couple weeks ago, but it did go up just a tiny bit. But it's like if you look at what it was over the last, even over the last 5 years, it's been doing nothing but going down.
Yeah, it was at 3.2 on the 15th.
Yeah, so they're continuing to drop. I think with how quickly they're dropping and how messy their transition seems to be going, they're going to be out of business in the next few years. And unfortunately for Game Informer, that might mean that they get closed too, unless somebody else buys them, which I really hope somebody does. Or if they just, I don't know what will happen. But
I don't know. I mean, I wish them luck.
Yeah. I've been doing nothing but sharing like their posts and stuff on Twitter, just saying anybody hire them. But I don't have enough of a following to make a difference. Other than I'm sure they're grateful that everyone's showing support and everything.
Yeah.
But I continue to follow them and their careers, and hopefully they get back up on their feet. I know Imran already has, which I'm happy for. The rest of them, I'm not sure yet. But I will continue to watch.
Yes.
I was just looking at one of their Twitters. Oh, just kidding. That's Brian Shea. He didn't lose his job.
Not yet.
No, he didn't get cut. Not yet. We'll see what happens in the future, but that's definitely a story that I'm continuing to follow. I'm sure I'll update on the podcast whenever another of them gets a job.
Mm-hmm.
But I know a couple of them had families, so it's like moving to a different place for a new job isn't as easy. Whereas Imran doesn't have like an immediate family. Like, I don't think he's married or anything, so moving wouldn't be too difficult. But he was already out in San Francisco, which is where Kind of Funny is. So that was an easy choice.
Yeah, it's always easier when you don't have extra people and stuff.
Right. When you don't have a family to that's depending on stability, it's a lot harder to move to a different job when you have a family planted, where you're at. When you're on your own, it's a lot easier. You're only worried about your own finances and finding a place for yourself. When you have a family, you have to think about them too.
Right.
So yeah, it's kind of a bummer of a story, but obviously any support toward them, I'll link all of their Twitter accounts into the show notes and stuff, and you guys, anyone listening, can go follow them and show your support for them. Go read any of the work that they've put out. It's all really, really great. Yeah, I've been reading their work for the last 5-6 years, and I love every piece that I've read. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next story. This one's a this one's a funny one. All right, Microsoft contractors listen to user audio from Xbox consoles by Rebecca Valentine. So this is from the 21st. This would have been just last week, but it says Xbox owners who have hooked up a Kinect or made use of Cortana's voice commands may have had their audio recorded and then listened to by Microsoft contractors. Vice reports that a number of contractors have come forward anonymously to admit part of their job was listening to recorded audio from Xboxes as far back as 2014. This was in response to a motherboard report attesting that similar listening in occurred for Skype and Cortana audio on PC and mobile. Xbox commands came up first as a bit of an outlier and then became about half of what we did before becoming most of what we did, said a former contractor. They added that most of the audio they listened to came from children.
Shocker.
While much of this audio was taken from deliberate user initiations such as Xbox On or Hey Cortana. And I
forgot you did it.
apologize to anyone who's listening to this near their Xbox. Such as Xbox On or Hey Cortana, though some of it was clearly accidental. The contractor added that most of the Xbox audio was also fairly benign compared to the Skype and Cortana audio on other platforms, the latter of which included material that, quote, could clearly be described as phone sex. The audio also reportedly included fewer accidental initiations as time went on. So a contractor said, quote, the Xbox stuff was actually a bit of a welcome respite, honestly. It was frequently the same games, same DLCs, same types of commands. Xbox, give me all of the games for free, or Xbox, download newest Minecraft skins pack, or whatever. Microsoft has said that audio data is only accessible through a secure online portal and has identifying information removed, though Motherboard found Microsoft job listings for work-from-home contractor positions. The contractor said, quote, I generally feel like that while we do not have access to user-identifiable information, that if Microsoft users were aware that random people sitting at home in their pajamas who could be joking online with friends about the stuff they just heard, that they wouldn't like that. And I agree.
Yeah.
But I mean, I feel like...
So, to me, none of this is shocking. I mean, we've thought for years that stuff is listening to us.
Yep. And we had proof that...
I mean, I even remember when we first got the Xbox, like Connect, and my mom was like, "Oh, it's looking at you." I'm like, "Yeah, you know, there's a camera, you can talk to it, blah blah blah." And like even she made a joke about how like, you know, the FBI is listening or whatever. But I mean, it's the same. It's I don't know, like the person whose name I'm not going to say right now because she's sitting on my desk. I know she's listening all the time. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. It's just like, our phones listen to us. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not shocked.
Yeah, I think Kind of Funny, the Kind of Funny Games Daily show some point last week. I guess it would have been the day after this came out, which would have been like the 22nd, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think they talked about it a little bit, and it's like, well, when you look at this in context, it's like any of these contractors are probably just their job is kind of quality assurance, making sure that any recordings that are being used are just making sure that the voice commands are working properly.
Mm-hmm.
And they report back to whoever is in charge of them or whoever hired them, whoever manages them. They report back to them whenever the Xbox voice commands aren't working properly or Cortana isn't working properly. And this got leaked, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are going to take this out of context and freak out that, oh my God, they're spying on us.
Right.
They have all of our information. And it's like, okay, everyone has pretty much all of your information at this point. And they're not using it. They're not necessarily using it against us. They can, if like a lawsuit, or not a lawsuit, but like if a crime was involved, they legally have to report it. So like if, let's say Siri was recording you, or the Xbox was recording you, and they heard somebody getting what sounds like getting murdered, they have to report that to like, they have to report that to somebody, just because that's.
Which, I mean, how do you not? Like, it's
right, you can't. You have to, because at that point you witnessed a crime, and if you fail to report that, that's failure to report a crime, which is a crime in and of itself. Which I don't know what the consequences are for that one. I don't know if that's a felony or not. I guess it would depend on the context of the crime, but
probably
either way, you know.
I don't know. I mean, is it a little creepy? Yes, because an independent contractor could literally be anybody. I mean, I've met people who seem like I'm not joking. I've met people in real life who like seem nice, and then you later find out they're like on the sex offender list. So like, you never know.
Yeah.
But
And that,
so I mean, it.
sorry,
I don't know what
continue.
you're gonna say.
I was just gonna say, like, that in and of itself sometimes is context sensitive too, because it's like they could have just peed somewhere and got caught and put on the same list.
Oh, no, it wasn't. I looked it up. But
okay. Oh yeah, I forgot you can look that up.
Yeah, you can look
You
it
can
up.
just look them up.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay.
That's the whole point of the list.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so it's creepy if they're, because everybody is weird in their own way. But some people are weirder than others, and those people who are weirder than others could be independent contractors, and they could be the ones listening to, children. So I think when it comes to that fact, that's probably the scariest thing of it all. I mean, if your Xbox overhears you and your significant other having sex, I don't have sex near the Xbox. I don't know. Like, go somewhere else.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, it's just like I said, I'm not surprised about any of this.
Yeah. I feel like anything with a voice command is going to have someone on the other end just making sure that it's working properly.
Right.
And I'm sure it's in the terms of service when you opt into it, but nobody ever reads it, so they end up missing it.
All that giant novel they want you to read before you hit accept or decline.
Which I normally do if it's for something bigger, like when I started getting or taking care of like my entry stuff for Full Sail, I literally read everything so that I knew because there was some stuff that I could use to my advantage if I ended up getting in trouble with something.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that if for some reason I failed a class, you can retake it for free for the first, you can retake it one time for free. Which was kind of nice. It still affects your grade, but you won't have to pay for it.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah. But then anytime you fail after that, like if you have to retake a class for the third time, you do have to pay for that, which I think is a fairly, yeah. Well, yeah, that would be your fault at that point. Because you can also like drop out of classes if obviously, especially if you're an online student, they're usually pretty lenient when it comes to life getting in the way. So if like you're having a really rough month and you need to drop the class for that month and then just retake it, they'll pull you from the class. Yeah,
that's legit, because as somebody who had to leave college because of a family death,
yeah, I
mean, I ended up going. I went back to college, obviously, but like I left. I think so. That was October 9th, so school would have been in session for 3 weeks ish. So then I left for the rest of that semester, and I did the winter semester at the community college, and then I went back to university the next fall. But I had to like still pay for all the classes. Well, I withdrew, I think, early enough, so it was fine. But it's not like I got to like retake anything for free or anything cool like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Full Sail's they have it like right on their listing that they're a for-profit school, so it's like I feel like they can afford to do. They're completely self-funded, so it's like, or not self-funded, but like they're a business as much as they are a school,
right? Yeah.
But that gives them a bunch of opportunities to design their own curriculum. They get a bunch of people from the industry to come in. Like they get recruiters from Blizzard all the time to come and check out what students are working on.
That's cool.
Yeah, they have really, really awesome stuff there, but I wasn't on campus, so I had to miss most of that. But I couldn't afford to move down there, so I was able to go to school and keep my job here. But either way, that's a little off topic. But yeah, I'm sure, like I was saying, I'm sure that in the terms of service or terms of use or whatever, there's something in there that says that agreeing to this and accepting it tells us that you're opting in for your voice to be recorded or to be monitored or something like that. And if you're not reading that, then you're going to miss that, and there's nothing you can do. You can't sue them for that because you signed up for it.
Right. Good backtracking, by the way. I totally forgot how we got off on that tangent.
Yeah. Yeah, because I read everything when I went to Full Sail just to make sure.
Right.
And I tend to do that with bigger things. If I'm playing a game, I don't care. If I'm signing up for a game, I don't care.
Right.
But something as important as like an apartment lease or signing up for a school.
Yeah.
Something that you're going to be paying a lot of money for.
Yeah, anything huge, like life altering for sure. I don't read anything when I get a new phone, which I probably should, but
I mean, new phone stuff is pretty standard, I feel like.
Yeah, but yeah, definitely like when I like have to re-sign for my lease and stuff, yeah, I read everything. Because I change stuff all the time.
Yeah. Plus, you want to make sure that you know what you have, any benefits that you might have, or
yes, not where I live, but yes.
Well, the apartment building that I'm going to be at has a conference room that's open to all tenants, so that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
And a rooftop with a grill.
What?
Yeah, anybody's able to use it.
That's legit. We have 2 grills, and they're right next to each other. They're by the leasing office. It sucks.
Oh, it's not on our rooftop. We have a fenced-in rooftop that anyone's allowed to go up to.
Oh my god, that'd be the best party central.
There's no parties allowed though.
Well, if you get caught.
Well, you can have up to 9 guests at a time.
That's a party, man. What the?
They can't stay the night is the thing.
Well,
you can have a gathering, but I'd have to look at it again. But anyway, I keep getting off on a tangent. So yes, Microsoft can listen in on you. You probably signed up for it. So next time, read the terms of service.
Yes, but also remember that literally everything in your house, if you're a technology person, is listening to you.
Anything with a microphone has somebody else listening in.
Yes.
Not to be creepy. It's usually for quality assurance purposes.
Right. Right now, me adding at all my technology that's around me right now. I know you're listening. I see you, FBI.
And honestly, if because I'm pretty sure that if any of them actually use or share any of the things that they record, if you find out that it's you on that recording and you didn't give them permission to put it out, that leaves them open to a lawsuit, and you could very easily sue them for that.
Yes.
And I'm sure that's in the terms of service as well. I'm sure that's in the contractor's contract as well. If they release or share anything that they hear, unless of course it's for a possible crime that they're reporting,
right?
Which for that you'd still need probable cause to share it. But like if they share something without permission, without a legitimate reason, that you can sue them for that. So, I mean, you still have rights to that. Just like if you have Snapchat, if somebody takes if someone screenshots a picture that you sent them and they release it to the public, that's technically illegal, and you can sue them for that too.
Yeah, and it'll let you know when someone screenshots too, which I think is nifty.
Yeah, so if someone screenshots it and shares it without your permission, you can sue them for that because that's illegal. I guess but either way, it's probably going to be a similar circumstance here. I think that's probably a pretty standard thing, but
yeah.
I don't think you should be too alarmed over this. I think worst case scenarios is they might overhear something that you don't necessarily want shared, but they can't share it anyway. So you can rest easy knowing that most of this is going to be for quality assurance purposes.
Yeah. So when you're having sex on the couch.
Yeah. And they don't have access to your personal information. So they have no idea who you are. They have no idea where you live. And Microsoft isn't going to give third-party contractors any of that information, obviously for the safety of their customers, which is you. But yeah, Moving on. So this is a little bit of a follow-up from last week. This is more on the DayZ story. This is kind of a shorter one, but modified DayZ receives MA 15 plus rating in Australia. This is by Matthew Handrahan over at gamesindustry.biz again. It says Bohemia Interactive's DayZ has been given an MA 15 plus rating by the Australian Classification Board. The game was denied a classification earlier this month when distributor 5 Star Games applied for a rating for its physical release in Australia. Bohemia Interactive later said that it would prefer to modify the base game than release a different version for the Australian market.
Mm-hmm.
A Bohemia spokesperson said, quote, "We don't want to separate Australian players from the rest of the world since many people play cross-region. We love that DayZ is the place to meet with friends and experience the game without dramatic regional lag. We don't want to change that." The exact number and nature of the changes isn't clear, but Kotaku Australia noted that the game's use of cannabis as a healing item was an issue for the classification board. The use of drugs for healing was also a problem with Undead Lab's State of Decay back in 2013. So basically, just like we talked about, I think it was last week.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it might have been the week before.
It was both.
Yeah, I think we've been talking about this the last couple of weeks, but just like we predicted, it was going to be a lot easier for them to just modify it out in the base game rather than having to do a different version of it in Australia, because that would separate the audience. It would sever the audience in Australia from the rest of the world because they would have a different version of the game, which isn't very. I wouldn't think that would be a very smart move, and obviously they knew that too.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I'm an expert or anything, but that would seem like the obvious choice would be to modify it to keep everybody together,
Right.
Which is what they did, and I think that was a smart move. Because, I mean, the idea of cannabis being a healing item in the game doesn't seem like it's that big of a deal if it's not in there. But again, they were just experimenting with it, so it's like it really wasn't a big deal for them to remove anyway.
Right.
But yeah,
but also, is cannabis legal in Australia? I
don't think it is. Because
So
I don't think they, I don't think they would have
deal.
had a problem with it if it was. Which, I mean, it's whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
I think in America,
like I said, the whole place is run by spiders, so
yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of poisonous stuff out there. I'm surprised that they'd be afraid, or I guess not afraid. They probably still just have old school laws when it comes to drug use. But I mean, America's legalizing it state by state for the most part. I know Illinois, starting the beginning of next year, I believe, they've already passed the legalization of recreational use, but it doesn't actually go into effect until next year. But I know
surprised it's not already.
Yeah, me too. But well, they did have it for medicinal purposes there. Now it's being legalized for recreational use.
Right.
But yeah, I think
I just feel like with Chicago, it just would have already
been I think pretty much any state with a major city like that, I feel like is going to end up legalizing it in the long run, just because I'm just talking out of my ass at that point, or I'm just talking off the top of my head at that point. But I mean, yeah, I'm guessing Australia, no, it's not legal there, because if it was, I'm sure this wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. But either way, it's smart move on their part to just remove it, to keep the base game,
to include everybody,
right, to make sure that everyone stays together. Yeah, not really much else on that. That's kind of a short one.
Yep.
Okay, this one because it's been roughly a slow week outside of the whole Game Informer thing and Riot Games that we'll talk about later. Because that's actually been an ongoing story, but I'll talk about that a little bit once we get closer to that. But So I was looking for some stuff. So I went to Gamasutra because I saw this on my Facebook notifications yesterday, and it kind of drew my attention. It says so the title is First International Gaming Summit on Mental Health set for October. This is by Alyssa McAloon. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your name. McAloon. I don't know. This is from Gamasutra from yesterday, actually. Whoa. It's not 2109. I missed the date.
2109. We have leapt through the future.
So this is from yesterday. So it says, the first International Gaming Summit on Mental Health is being held this year in Toronto, Canada, to address the unique mental health challenges faced by people working in the video game industry. Excuse me. Speaking to VentureBeat, Summit founder Mark Chandler says that the event was born out of his own history with experiencing and then speaking out about mental health issues as a member of the game industry. Chandler tells VentureBeat, quote, it was through that sharing in the industry that people started reaching back to me or reaching out to me and telling their stories, and that was how this came about. Since then, psychosis researcher and professor Paul Fletcher, take this executive director Yves Crevauche. I'm sorry, I mispronounced that name, I'm sure. Global Game Jam executive director Kate Edwards and Devolver Digital co-founder Mike Wilson have all signed on as members of the summit's advisory board. Organizers say the event aims to start small and will touch on topics ranging from protecting and supporting employees to how to facilitate open discussion of mental health struggles. The event itself is set to take place over World Mental Health Day and will be held on October 9th and October 10th this year. So I think just globally and generally, mental health issues are becoming a lot more normalized and talked about. I think in the last 5 years, it's rapidly becoming a normalized thing. People having mental health issues, even as something as small as just having a little bit of anxiety or minor depression, minor symptoms of depression. So not even talking anything chronic.
Right.
Like everybody has some kind of problem like that. And
we're all dying a little bit inside.
Okay.
No, it is though. I think I'd like to thank the millennials for that, because there is something we need to be thanked for once in a while.
Yeah, our generation especially, because we're struggling with a crumbling housing market.
Housing market. The earth is going to die anytime soon. We all have a giant amount of student loan debt.
Yeah.
Should I keep going?
I think that's the gist of it.
No, but I mean, it is for sure, because I remember I actually just saw I think it was a tweet the other day, like somebody just kind of joking like our parents and older used to be like, have you heard about Trisha? She's been to therapy. Like it was like a big deal, and now we're like, guys, guess what my therapist said? Like, yeah. So it's just kind of like it's definitely more normalized, which is nice.
Yeah, and it's something that definitely needs to be normalized, because there's a lot of silent strugglers that decide to end it when nobody even knew they were struggling. I know we had someone within the band program that was going through something like that. I don't want to mention any names just for their family's sake, but it hit everybody really hard, because he was a very nice kid. Yeah. He was the light of the room every time he walked in. And I wish I had taken the chance to get to know him a little bit more. But it's like, there's tons of people out there who seem like the happiest people in the world, and you'd never know that they're struggling because of this stigma that is starting to die, thankfully.
Great example, Robin Williams.
Exactly. Yeah, he was always the life of the party, pretty much. And I grew up with his films, so it's like when it got into the news that had happened, it hit me really hard, because it's like this dude pretty much defined my childhood. Like Mrs. Doubtfire, Flubber,
Aladdin.
Aladdin, who's the genie. I think this is especially important because there is the deal with the game industry being so rapidly growing that it's like crunch time happens all the time. That's even becoming more normalized. Like more people are talking about it. I think there's even some studios that admit that, yeah, crunch time happens. It's something that we're working on. It's still going to be an issue until we can figure out how to solve it. Which most of it is from like higher ups pushing for more and more when they don't understand that it's like, okay, well, no, it's going to take a lot more time than that. Or feature creep becoming a thing. Feature creep is where you start adding new features when it's becoming time sensitive. So feature creeping is definitely a big no-no. You have to polish what you have and work with what you have. Don't start adding new stuff. We don't have time for that. And then crunch starts to happen.
Right. I mean, look at last week with the gunner dog thing.
Yeah. With Fortnite being entering a period of crunch where they were working 12-hour days, 7 days a week. Something like that happens. It's not okay to do that. But you can't really blame whoever ended up submitting that. Plus, when they submitted it, somebody higher up would have accepted it, which is even worse.
Yeah, someone okayed it.
Yeah, someone had to okay it. But I mean, it happened. They apologized for it. Everyone was issued a refund for it if they bought it. So the messes, you could consider that mess to be cleaned up at this point, but something still needs to be done internally to avoid something like that happening again.
Right.
So I think this really, opened my, or not really opened my eyes. It caught my eye because it showed up in my newsfeed on Facebook. With this becoming like, if this becomes like a yearly summit, that's something that I definitely want to look into, because we've had, a Games for Change summit during, I don't know what, I think it's during GDC actually, where it focuses on games that are about heavier topics. So like that Dragon Cancer would have been in that. Life is Strange won awards for that. Yeah, it won the Game for Impact award, I think, the year it came out. I forget what it was up against, but I think this is even another step further towards something like that, as far as like bringing awareness up that, you might talk to a developer and hear someone say, "Oh, you've got nothing to complain about. You're basically a rock star in the tech industry," and it's like, that's debatable. Yeah, well, Rockstar, keep in mind that even rock stars, while they have like one of the best jobs in the world, it doesn't mean it's a stress-free job. They're away from their families. They're on the road all the time. They're constantly busy.
There's really no such thing as a stress-free job.
Exactly.
I mean, even people who chase their dreams and go the entrepreneur way, there's still stress. So
yeah, even especially entrepreneurship, you're running a whole business. Which is highly stressful. I'm sure. But
yeah,
I mean,
I do think, rewarding, I mean, obviously. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah. But the World Mental Health Day, I mean, I think it'll be nice. It's honestly, it's more America, in the grand scheme of things, that needs to work on stuff. Like, if you look at like Finland and a lot of the European countries, they kind of know what they're doing when it comes to mental health. Finland, I think, is one of the top one. They beat us out on so many things. Number one, like education. But I mean, but I know like some European countries, like they have like long vacations. I think they have like shorter labor hours. I think they get like, some places are like 3-day weekends, like every week kind of thing. Like they do a whole bunch of stuff to make sure that they're like, that people are okay, which I think is awesome.
They set realistic goals for their company. They set realistic expectations. Whereas, being in, which I'm not going to go too deep into it, but like capitalism is more dependent on seeing financial results.
Oh yeah.
That's literally
Oh
what
yeah.
capitalism is. There's no arguing with that. So it's like there's a lot of companies that care more about seeing profits than they do about the people helping them
You
get
can see
them.
the dollar signs in their eyes.
Yeah. And
I
there's
worked for people like that.
yeah. So it's like we need to make sure that, and this is what this whole summit is going to be more about, is making sure that your team is taken care of a little bit more than just making sure that the game gets put out.
Right.
If you want a good game, you need to make sure that the team working on it is, being healthy. Make sure they're not being overworked. Make sure they're not. Make sure that they aren't overworking themselves, because a lot of the crunch that happens is usually a cultural thing. When you start hearing more and more about crunch time happening, it's not that the hours are implemented. Like, they're not being forced to work that many hours. It's that higher ups who are super passionate about the project keep overworking themselves.
Oh yeah.
And then other people want to follow what they're doing, and then other people want to follow what they're doing, and it's just this chain of command that ends up becoming this crunch culture, rather than you have to work this many hours. And now a lot of people
hours doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, my old job that I worked at before I quit and became a full-time photographer, I mean, it was your normal 9 to 5, so it wasn't like I was working 12-hour days, 7 days a week. But I started the job fine, like the job, whatever. By the end of it, I was crying in the bathroom every single day because of the higher ups. So like, it doesn't have anything to do with hours. It's all dependent on how you treat the staff and how how realistic you are when it comes to things getting done.
Right. And there's a quote by Richard Branson, who's the owner of Virgin. Yeah, the Virgin company. He has a famous quote that I love. You might have your opinions on him just because he's rich. I don't know. A lot of people just like to look at rich people like they're evil just for being rich. But dang it, where is it? He has a quote, a famous quote. I'm trying to find it on. Oh, here it is. So he said, his famous quote is, "Clients do not come first. Employees come first. If you take care of your employees, they will take care of your clients."
Yep.
And that is useful for pretty much any business. If you have a product to sell or clients to take care of, you have employees to take care of that are going to be taking care of your clients. And if you treat your staff like crap, what do you think they're going to do with your clients? They're going to be irritated, and they're going to snap at your clients. And your business starts to crumble because your clients keep walking away. So it's like, you want to make sure that your team members, that your employees, your whatever, your staff is taken care of, so that they can be happy, so that they can make sure that your clients are happy. If they aren't worrying about themselves, they can focus more on worrying about your clients. It's pretty simple.
I mean, not that I never snapped at any. I mean, I worked in a real estate office, so we didn't have like customers necessarily. But I never snapped at any person. But you could definitely tell, like, I guess in my art, my work, like, I went from having a skip in my step to hating existence. I guess that place sucked. I hated it so much.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate enough to not have to deal with stressful higher ups, but anyway, getting back to the main point, the game industry does have a rough situation when it comes to mental health because of crunch time, and with it being such an under wraps industry. Being an entertainment industry, you have very strict NDAs that you have to follow. You can't talk about the project. You can't talk about what you're working on. You can't. I mean, obviously, if it's announced, like Volition has announced that they're working on Saints Row, so I can say that I'm going to be working on the next Saints Row game. But once I get to the job, it's going to be I can't talk about anything, which is fine. But it's like the industry as a whole is so airtight when it comes to leaks and stuff, or they try to be airtight. Sometimes it doesn't always work out. But I think this International Gaming Summit on mental health is going to be really interesting, and I'm looking forward to what that is. It's in a couple of months. I would like to go, but I think it's going to be more of a professional thing.
Probably.
More for like execs or team leads and stuff like that. But I do want to make sure that I pay attention to it, what it is, hear stories coming out. I'm sure there's going to be journalists covering it. But it sounds like it's going to start small and it'll grow into something much bigger, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So check that out. It's on October 10th October 9th and October 10th. Keep a lookout for it. I'm probably going to keep a lookout for it too, but I'm going to be moving around that time, so I'm sure I'm going to be too busy to follow it. But anyway, let's move on to the next topic.
Yes.
This one, I wanted to bring this up because I mean, I do this too, but I'll read the article and then talk about it. But it says, so this is Bungie, quote, "We need to dispel the notion Activision was some prohibitive overlord." This is by Brendan Sinclair over at gamesindustry.biz. This is from yesterday, Monday the 26th, yesterday of this recording. It says, Bungie's year started off with a bang as the company announced an end to its partnership with Activision in January, with the studio taking over all publishing responsibilities on the Destiny franchise. Some of the big changes made since then, like the migration from Activision Blizzard's Battle.net to Steam, are clearly related to that move. Others, like the impending rollout of a free-to-play baseline version of Destiny 2, are less clearly linked. Speaking with Eurogamer at Gamescom, Bungie Communications Director David Dagg, I want to say that's his name, David Dagg. I'm probably mispronouncing it. David Dagg downplayed the suggestion of a tie between them. He said, quote, "I think we need to dispel the notion Activision was some prohibitive overlord that wasn't letting us do awesome things. We launched this franchise with Activision naturally, and over the course of time, we both decided we had different goals for what we wanted it to be. So we both went our separate ways. It was amicable, and here we are making this game on our own, doing what we think we need to do with it. Doing what we think we need to do to make it awesome. Day to day on the development side, things aren't that different, really. It's at places like Gamescom where we come into contact with our publishing team, our new Bungie teammates in foreign markets, working on Destiny, where we're still wrapping our arms around this global community. But in terms of the decision making, our creative leads are still calling the shots like they always were on what they want the game to be. We want to make the best game we can. We want to make the best game we can make, and the longer we make it, the better we understand the people who play it. So if Bungie seems different these days, it's in us gaining a better understanding of what Destiny is, why it's value to players, and where we want to take it. I wanted to bring this up because I know that it's really easy to point fingers at publishers for making financial decisions and sometimes even design decisions going along with that. EA especially gets targeted a lot. Activision gets targeted a lot. I thought that this was interesting because it's like Bungie was they were never owned by Activision. It was more of a partnership for Destiny. And so when they split back then, I thought it was going to be like this crazy good thing for Bungie, but it's like it really wasn't all that much better. I mean, yeah, it's better because they have a little bit more control over what they wanted to do, but it really isn't that much different. It's just that they both had different directions that they wanted to take the game, and Bungie and Activision both decided, okay, well, maybe us working on this together isn't the best for this game, so we'll just split our ways. Bungie takes the properties and continues to work on it like they have been, just going in slightly different directions that they would have if they stayed with Activision. So it's not that different. I don't play it, so I have no idea what the audience side is.
Well, this is a good topic for my husband, I tell you that. No, I honestly, I mean, from playing Destiny 1 and Destiny 2, I mean, Destiny 1, they were with Activision. Destiny 2, I mean, they split from Activision. I think 2 or 3 DLCs. No, how many DLCs are we now? 1 or 2 DLCs after Destiny 2 came out is when they split from Activision.
Like the bigger expansions?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think it's 2 if I remember correctly.
I think it's 2 because the next one's coming out October 1st. But I think they're going a good direction. And I've believed since they've split that things are going well for them. Because I remember watching some of like their press kind of things that because they go live every now and then. You'll see like their center and everyone working and talk to you. You don't get to talk to them, but you listen to like some of the developers and like the CEO and like stuff like that. And they always seem to I don't know, they just seem to be in a different light, which I think is nice. And the free to play baseline version of Destiny 2, I think is an incredible idea. I mean, because the whole point of it is like, since Shadowkeep, which is the new DLC, is coming on October 1st. But I mean, there's a lot of people that stopped playing Destiny, and I think it's going to be a great way to get people to come back in and, remember how fun the game is before the next DLC comes out. And even if they are new, I mean, they can still come in, see what the game's all about, and then go on from there. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like them splitting from Activision was a really good decision. And I mean, if people are not agreeing, that's fine. But just based on what I've seen and the people who I talk to all the time, and they're such big Destiny people, I mean, they seem to like everything that's coming. So
yeah, it does sound like it's going in a more positive direction, even if it is just slightly. It just kind of goes to show that no, Activision wasn't this major like he said, it wasn't this prohibitive overlord where they weren't allowed to do anything.
Right. Yeah, it's not like they're like the puppet master or anything.
Right. And I don't think any major publishers really like that until they have the full rights to it. So like EA obviously owns The Sims, or EA obviously owns
other things.
Yeah. Why can't I think of another one? EA has a lot of stuff. Battlefront 2.
Battlefront, yeah.
Yeah. I think they obviously have a much bigger hand in stuff like that.
Dragon Quest? No, is that not one?
Dragon Quest? No,
not
that's
Dragon Quest. What I'm trying to think of though?
Yeah, Dragon Age? Is that EA? No, that's BioWare. That's an EA company.
Is it?
Right? I think so. BioWare.
I don't know.
Yes.
I don't know. They have a lot.
Yeah, any BioWare game is an EA property because BioWare is owned by, as of 2007, the company is owned by American publisher Electronic Arts. So yeah, BioWare's been a property of EA, or a subsidiary of EA, since 2007.
Wow, it's a long time ago.
Yeah. So yeah, Dragon Age would be an EA property. Same thing with Anthem.
Anthem. Yep.
Yeah. I think
Yep.
EA is a little bit more. They have their hands more in development, but it's like I feel like we shouldn't always blame. The reason I bring this up is because you want to make sure that you're looking at every project from a case by case basis, because sometimes it's not really the publisher's fault and it's
Right.
not the developer's fault. You have to look at it. You kind of have to look at it in a more. You have to investigate a little bit more than just, oh, EA, you suck for this, or Activision, you suck for this. Like, do a little bit of digging first, because if I know this Bungie split, and I'm guilty of this too. When Bungie split with Activision, I figured, holy crap, that's going to be really good for them. They took Destiny with them, and it's like, well, Activision never owned Destiny. That was a partnership.
Right.
Bungie still had as far as I know, it was a mutual, even partnership, and Bungie has the finances to fund themselves, so they split and went back to being indie, and they're running it just fine. They're taking the game in the slightly different directions that they wanted to, and it's going well, and we'll see more of that, I'm sure, later on. But I feel like when it comes to publishers getting their hands in development, it's not always like the publishers aren't always this giant thing that keeps them from doing anything that they want. So it's like, no, you cannot do any of that because you're not going to be allowed to, because we don't want you to do that. It's more just they do run the funding so that you still have to do certain things, like as far as making sure that it's financially viable and whatnot, because they are funding the game. A publisher gives a developer the finances in order to make the game. They're the ones that give you the budget. So like, Anthem was being paid for by, or the budget for Anthem was being paid for by EA. That one's a little bit tougher of a story, or a tougher of a example, because that one did kind of flop a little bit.
Just a little. Still heard about it.
Yeah.
It's more of a, like, if someone's like either in control or partnered, it's not like, it's not like what you said, like it's not like you can't do this. It's more of, here's some money, here's the stipulations.
Yeah. And it's usually just a chain of command that keeps telling it, the one below them what the plans are, what they need to do, and just kind of giving them the orders that were given from on high. So I guess I didn't really know how to compare it, because EA does usually have their hand a little bit more in the development. This was just a partnership that happened to split. But obviously Activision has been getting crap for it, because otherwise Bungie wouldn't have brought this up, that Activision wasn't some prohibitive overlord, as they said. They were kind of at a mutual agreement to just split because they wanted different things for the game. So now Activision's going to go focus on their properties. Bungie's going to focus on Destiny.
Right.
But I thought I'd bring that up because I'm sure there are some people. I know there are a couple people in my friend group that need to be reminded of that. That sometimes it's not always, the publisher isn't always just this evil corporation. They still care about their properties. They care about their audiences. Because if their audience isn't happy, then their finances might not be happy.
Right.
But EA is a bad example because they're constantly missing some things. And I really wish they would stop being dumb in certain situations. But anyway, a couple more stories. We'll try and get through these kind of quickly, but so this one I wanted to bring up because this was something that I heard about a while back, and I totally forgot about it until this came up. It says, so it's called Emulator aims to keep Flash games alive and kicking after official support ends. This is by, again, Alyssa McClune over at Gamasutra from yesterday, Monday the 26th. It says an open source emulator called Ruffle is in the works that aims to allow Flash games on platforms like Newgrounds to remain playable after Adobe and web browsers officially end support for Flash in 2020. It's a promising project and one that could potentially keep a good chunk of early Flash-based games and content from essentially vanishing from the web once Flash is put out to pasture next year. Spotted by PC Gamer over the weekend, Ruffle is a Rust-based open-source emulator that can be installed as a browser plugin to detect Flash embeds and swap the code for Ruffle. Its announcement came as part of a Newgrounds post on new features headed to the site, but the extension itself isn't contained to just Newgrounds projects. As the Newgrounds announcement notes, ideally that means, quote, meaning you could visit any old website and the Flash will eventually just work, even after more and more browsers continue to slowly walk back their support for Flash. On the web game portal, Newgrounds specifically, Flash embed code is being gradually swapped out with Ruffle to allow Flash games and animations to run as intended, even if players don't have the Ruffle extension installed on their machine. Now, anyone who's my age, or roughly my age, there was this point in time where Flash games were all the rage.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure you've probably played Flash games back in the day, too.
Oh, yeah. That's all there was back then. I mean, really.
That was essentially the App Store before the App Store was a thing.
Yeah.
There were tons and tons of games. There were genres that were born on Flash games. There were certain variations of like tower defense games.
Mm-hmm.
I think tower defense games as we know them now were basically born through Flash games. I mean, you had your RTS games and stuff like that. But what we know as tower defense, like if you've ever played Bloons Tower Defense, that's a popular one that did end up making it over on iOS, was a game that was a tower defense game based on a game called Bloons, where you're just a monkey throwing darts at balloons.
I do remember that one.
But there were so many Flash games that were
so many.
That were so... I used to play Flash games all the time.
Like, there was a website that you could... I can't remember what it's called anymore, because it's been, like, 19 years. But yeah, there was, like, a website you could, like, type in and, wait for the internet to go. But, but, I mean, it would just be, like, this catalog of games that you could just, like, flip through and play, and some were really good, some were misses, but I mean, and then there's the whole the website that I visited earlier today, because article homestarrunner.com.
Yes,
that's a great one. All Flash games.
Yeah, if anyone knows Trogdor. Yeah, that was actually a song that was popular enough to make it on a Guitar Hero game. I want to say it was the first one.
First or second, yeah.
It was the first or second game.
Such a
but Flash games were such a nostalgia trip for anyone who basically on the back end of the millennial generation.
So like, mid to back end. For
yeah, because I know the millennial generation started like in the mid to late 80s, I want to say.
I think it's 82, because I think the oldest millennials now are almost 40.
Yeah, because my cousins, researchers in popular media use the early 1980s as starting birth years, and then mid 90s to early 2000s. I think it was actually defined by something. Yeah, period was 1981 to 1996. So of birth years. So like, we were both kind of on the back end of the millennial generation, but for the back end of the millennial generation, there was this time period of Flash games where it was just everywhere. We would play those games all the time, because if we wanted to play newer games, or we wanted to play more games, a lot of times our parents wouldn't just go out and buy a bunch of games for us. video games as a consistent hobby wasn't really accepted by the older generation yet, unless they were already playing games and stuff. Like my dad played Pong when he was growing up. He played the Atari when he was growing up a little bit. They would.
I'm pretty sure my mom basically like she like breastfed. Like there was like, one of us was like in her arm, and then her other arm N64 controller. So or not N64, wouldn't have been N64 yet, but Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
I mean, so we got to play games, but yeah.
Yeah, I know my parents said that when they were dating, they would sometimes go to the arcade. And my mom, her favorite, if I remember correctly, I know she was really into Centipede. Like that was one of her favorite games.
I used to play it on my dad's BlackBerry all the time.
Yeah, that was one of her favorite games of the arcade days. That and Donkey Kong. She played Donkey Kong a lot.
That's a good one. It's a classic.
Yeah. If I had to pick an arcade game, you can't go wrong with Pac-Man. I'm not great at it, but
Frogger, that's a good one.
Frogger's a good one too. But yeah, so Flash games were basically like an online arcade. There were a ton of games that were either really big hits, or there were a ton of ones that are just a giant mess.
Time wasters, yeah.
Yeah, time wasters or ones that just did not work. The Endless Runner was born from Flash games, before Temple Run and Subway Surfers or whatever.
Before Temple Run, we had Homestar Runner and Neopets.
Yeah, Neopets was another one. That was kind of the first Toys to Life thing. Or Toys to Life market. You'd get Neopets or Webkins or whatever they were.
Oh, I think Webkins might have been the first one, because Neopets wasn't until I don't think Neopets did the Toys to Life thing until Webkins became a thing. Because when I first started playing Neopets, I don't remember any stuffed animals being available.
Yeah. It was
Webkins for sure. I know that was that
huge. Was definitely a Toys to Life thing, because you could go to the store and buy one of those stuffed animals and there'd be a code on it or something.
Yeah.
And then you could play games like Flash games with that character or something. Which was super cool. But I remember being on Addicting Games and Congregate and Newgrounds, and I remember there was one game that I really liked in particular called Indestructo Tank, where you were just a tank. It was like an endless runner. The idea is to survive as long as you could, and the game was you didn't shoot anything, but you would purposely get hit by rockets from a helicopter or from helicopters, and the idea was your life bar was more or less just a timer. It wouldn't go down at all more for being hit by rockets, as far as I remember, but rockets would launch you into the air, and you score points by hitting the helicopters that are in the air and bouncing back and forth. And each time you bounce back and forth and blow up another helicopter without touching the ground, it would multiply your score. So each helicopter would multiply it by that number. So your score was multiplied by how many helicopters you hit without dropping. But
I'm looking at the still images of it now, and I think I kind of remember.
And another genre that I really loved, still do, were the flight games, where you level up something and you try to get as far as you can, and usually there's some kind of end goal. And a couple of them have found their way on to mobile games. So if I remember it was you were like this wrestler or whatever in this almost like a Candyland thing, but all the gummy people were crazy, and you'd hop between them. I don't remember what it's actually called now.
What?
Burrito Bison. That's what it's called.
Burrito Bison?
Those games where you shoot a character out of a cannon and you level up and you'll be able to get them farther, and you bounce off of people's heads and stuff. Kitten Cannon's one of them.
I remember Kitten Cannon.
Toss the Turtle. That's a famous one.
I don't know. I don't think this might have been more of your time than mine. I mean, not that we're a big time apart.
Yeah, just a couple years.
I mean, a couple years in video games though is kind of a big deal, but
yeah, especially depending on the time period too. But
I don't remember this one.
But those were the types of games that I would get super into over on Flash websites. But there was also oh my gosh, I'm having a nostalgia trip talking about these.
That was fun.
But yeah, when the announcement came out that Flash games Flash was no longer going to be supported on websites, it was really sad to hear, because it's like there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of games, if not millions, of either really trashy games but are nostalgic because they were free that you could play. They made their money from advertisements that would just be hanging out at the bottom of the screen or on the sides of the screen. They never really got in your way as long as you didn't click outside the screen.
Right.
But it's like they made money off of the ads that were on their website, but they weren't intrusive. You would just see them. Sometimes there might be one that was interesting and you'd go click on, but we never really cared about the ads growing up. We cared more about the game. The ads were never really super intrusive. They wouldn't interrupt your game like they do now, but it's like they were all free to play. And if you go on the website, you could play like hundreds of these games. There were really cool zombie games. There were really cool like sports games. I don't know if you've ever played the Trials games.
Maybe.
They're like a side-scrolling biking game, physics-based game. They're really fun. But that genre kind of started with Flash games. There was one Flash game that I remember someone was playing on. I don't remember if I was the one that introduced it, but we would be working in a tech lab back in like 7th grade or something. And this was before like the school system would block distracting websites, and we would pull up Addicting Games or Congregate or Newgrounds, and we would play these sports games. And I think I pulled it up and someone saw me playing it. I was like, yeah, just go to this website. Then everyone in the room was playing those games after our work was done. And we were
I think Addicting Games was the one I always went on.
Yeah, Addicting Games was the one that I would always go to until Congregate became popular, because you could get achievements and stuff on the games there. And then GameStop had a partnership with them where you'd have an achievement of the day where you would earn power-up rewards points for earning that badge, but they ended that partnership. And since then, I haven't really been playing Flash games because it's just I have money now, so I buy actual games.
Right.
But Congregate now has they have a built in like Unity support.
This is the only level. Sorry, I just saw that one. It's one of my favorite games.
That game is so good. Oh my god. Okay, everyone who is listening to this, go look up. I'll have it in the notes, but this one blew my mind because it was so creative.
That is such a good game.
It blew this. I found that game while I was studying at Full Sail, and I thought the design of that game was so awesome and so interesting because it's literally one level. They only designed one level, but did as many things as they could with that one level. And it just sounds like someone did a brainstorming session and then just prototyped something dumb, and it turned out to be really awesome.
It's it's amazing.
That gave me goosebumps.
That's a good one too.
That gave me goosebumps when you brought that up because that game. I think there's 3 games. Is it you're playing as like a stupid little element? Yes. Oh my god, that game is so good. Oh yeah. Anyone listening to this, go look up. This is the only level. I think there's 3 games, but it's so cool. It's literally just one level design, but. It's usually there's a clue in the name of the level. So like this is the only level, or the level title might be like
or like something like Anti-Gravity, I think is one of them.
Yeah. Oh man.
There's a lot.
Anyway, no, we're still on topic talking about Flash games, but oh my gosh. This might be kind of the bigger topic for this week, just talking about our favorite Flash games. But the Flash ends, or support for Flash ends in 2020, so it's like it's only going to be supported for a couple more months, which is really sad because it's like that's almost an entire generation's nostalgia just gone.
Right.
I think even Angry Birds started as a Flash game.
Yeah, Angry Birds either started as it or it was inspired by one.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure there was a game like that wasn't necessarily Angry Birds.
CrazyGames.com. Angry Birds. Oh, that might be the Angry Birds. Yeah. Oh, no, that's a different one. Angry Birds HD. They might have just put the game on there, honestly. But yeah, those types of launch games started as Flash games. There was what's another really funny one? There's a lot. There was one that actually ended up on Steam called The Last Door, and it's an episodic game, but it's super
familiar.
It's super interesting. Like it gave me it's a story-based, it's a point and click adventure, and it has a very, very pixelated look. Like it almost looks like an Atari game. It still has it has a wider color palette than an 8-bit would allow. But it has that same sort of art style. But it's really pretty at the same time. Like it looks like a genuinely old game.
Yeah, I think I played that one. I definitely played that one.
Yeah, look that one up too.
That's a good one.
It's creepy, but like, I played through all of those. It took me a few hours, but I remember there was one moment in the game where you're playing a record or something, and like you just hear this. I don't want to spoil it because it'll give you or give you chills when you listen to it. But there's like a record player that has this dude's voice on it, and it changes when you go back in and turn it back on. And it kind of broke my heart. But it's like a Flash game was able to stir up emotions, which I think is really beautiful. But that game actually came out as a full game on Steam for like $15. You get all 4 episodes or something. So it's like this developer started off just as someone who was doing games for fun and just putting it on Congregate for free, or with the Congregate developer partnership or whatever, because they have a developers program over at Congregate now. I haven't really looked into it a lot, but that game started to generate a following. Like if you go on that game's page, you go through the comments and everyone's like, when's the next episode come out? We want more. And he's just constantly talking to his audience, and then it gets released on Steam for $15, and it's like a full-fledged game, and a bunch of that audience probably went over and bought it to support him. And it's like, that started with a Flash game. So it's like, Flash was another place where indie developers or people who are developing games just for fun could actually turn that into a career if they wanted to. It was basically Steam before Steam was a thing.
For sure. But with free games.
Right.
Not that Steam doesn't have free games, but
yeah, usually if it's a free game on Steam, it's usually free for a reason. Because it does cost money to put games on Steam. I think it's like $100 threshold or something. I could be wrong.
Dang.
But that's $100. That's $100 total that you pay just to put it on the platform. Then there's you have to pay them a certain percentage, and
right.
But anyway, anyone listening to this, comment or email me or message me or comment on the Facebook posts, on Twitter, comment wherever you can comment on this episode what your favorite Flash games were, so that we can go and look at them, and we can start just a community thread of all of our favorite Flash games as part of this, because Flash really was kind of a generation defining thing. especially for gamers. Like, I remember playing Flash games with my friends all the time. My brother and I would play Flash games all the time. It was like my go-to thing after school because we weren't technically allowed to play games after school, unless it was the weekend, but we were allowed to use the computer. So we would play Flash games as kind of the workaround, as the loophole. But oh my gosh, there were so many great Flash games. God, now I want to just go on Congregate or Addicting Games and play a bunch of them. But yeah, tell us what your favorite Flash games are. And we can, like I said, we can start like a whole thread on this and just talk about our favorite Flash games, just to kind of as a celebration of Flash games' existence, with it going away. Hopefully this emulator works out, because that would be really awesome if Flash games could continue.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if Ruffle's gonna help out, that'll be nice.
Yeah. How much time do you have? Do you have to go anywhere right away?
No, because I moved my thing that I had to do today.
Oh, okay. We have one more story, and this one's a little bit, not really of a heavier topic. This is something that's been unfolding the last year or two. But we haven't really talked about it because it hasn't been in the headlines lately. But anyone who's been following the whole Riot Games thing will know what this is all about. But Riot Games settles gender discrimination class action lawsuit. This is by Chris Kerr over at Gamasutra from the 23rd. It says, League of Legends developer Riot Games has agreed to settle a class action lawsuit that alleged the studio allowed gender-based discrimination and fostered a work culture that favored men. The suit was filed in November last year by one current and one former employee, who argued that Riot had violated California's Equal Pay Act and asked for compensation on unpaid wages, damages, and other penalties. It arrived after several other employees pulled back the curtain on Riot's toxic workplace environment in an article on Kotaku that detailed incidents of sexual harassment and bullying, while the settlement comes after over 150 employees staged a mass walkout over the company's forced arbitration policy.
Wow.
And I actually have the statement here. It's a bit lengthy. I'll try and get through as much of it as I can. But it says, and I'll have this in the show notes and in the YouTube description, but it says, as many of you know, there have been a few lawsuits filed against Riot since last year, including a proposed class action that alleged claims of gender discrimination in pay and promotion, sexual harassment, and retaliation against women working at Riot offices in California. We've taken these claims very seriously and have been working on many fronts to review and address the lawsuits and the concerns that were raised. We've done a deep dive into our past, our culture, and our systems and processes. Last August, we announced our first steps forward, and those steps continue today. We will continue to strive to be a great company and one that cares about its employees and its players. After extensively reviewing these issues, we can confidently state that gender discrimination in pay or promotion, sexual harassment, and retaliation are not systemic issues at Riot. But what we also learned during this process was that some rioters have had experiences that did not live up to our values or culture. In addition, we've encountered considerable fatigue among rioters who have been drained by constant engagement with the internal and external dialogues emerging from these lawsuits and recurring media cycles. We made a commitment to rioters that we would be willing to take the steps necessary to build trust and to demonstrate that we're serious about Riot evolving into an excellent place to work for all rioters. Under these circumstances, we've had to look critically at our litigation approach to the class action lawsuit. While we believed that we had a strong position to litigate, we realized that in the long run, doing what is best for both Riot and rioters was our ideal outcome. Therefore, rather than entrench ourselves and continue to litigate, we chose to pivot and try to take an approach that we believe best demonstrates our commitment to owning our past and to healing the company so that we can move forward together. As such, we're pleased to announce that we've come to an agreement in principle to settle the class action lawsuit against Riot. And the rest of that kind of continues to talk a little bit more about like the actual lawsuit. So at the bottom of at the bottom of this, they actually have the preliminary settlement agreement reached. That I'll read. It says, this is from the 22nd, so this was again just last week. It says, all parties have reached an agreement in principle today to resolve the class action lawsuit case against Riot Games. Quote, this is a very strong settlement agreement that provides meaningful and fair value to class members for their experiences at Riot Games, said Ryan Saba of Rosen Saba LLP, the attorney representing the plaintiffs. He goes on to say, quote, this is a clear indication that Riot is dedicated to making progress in evolving its culture and employment practices. A number of significant changes to the corporate culture have been made, including increased transparency and industry-leading diversity and inclusion programs. The many Riot employees who spoke up, including the plaintiffs, significantly helped change the culture at Riot. The parties will now move forward. Seeking court approval of the proposed settlement, and we will provide additional details about its terms when that filing takes place. And there's a quote from Nicolo Laurent. I want to say that's how you pronounce his name. Who's the CEO of Riot? Came out and said at the end of this, he said, quote, we are grateful for every Rioter who has come forward with their concerns and believe this resolution is fair for everyone involved. With this agreement, we are honoring our commitment to find the best and most expeditious way for all Rioters and Riot to move forward and heal. Over the past year, we've made substantial progress toward evolving our culture and will continue to pursue this work as we strive to be the most inclusive company in gaming. So, over the last couple of years or so, Riot has been in the headlines after... I don't remember how it ended up getting into headlines, but it was leaked that the office was highly toxic and highly sexist against women in the workplace, including, law-breaking issues as far as unequal pay, clearly favoring men for certain jobs or promotions, and it's like, that obviously did not go over well as soon as that got leaked.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, this is kind of more the back end of the whole situation. This has been an ongoing thing since before we even started the podcast. I remember one of the podcasts that I listened to, Game Dev Unchained, have focused on that specifically for like full podcasts. They did nothing but talk about Riot Games. That situation, they talked about when they had that walkout that didn't really lead to anything at the time. Obviously, with this coming out, it's starting to make a little bit of progress, but this is kind of an ongoing situation that I'm sure is going to be detailed a little bit later on too.
Yeah.
But I saw that and I figured that was something that you'd probably want to talk about. With it being gender discrimination and whatnot.
Yeah, it's there's just so many issues with a lot of places. But I mean, if they're able to fix what has happened in Riot with the settlement and everything, I mean, that would be best.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that there are still places that don't have equal pay. I myself have been passed over for promotions because there was a man that was available. Like, it's a pain in the butt, and it's stupid that it still happens. But
yeah,
I mean, there's so much to say, and at the same time, there's so little, because at this point, I think women are we're just tired of it.
Fed up with it. And for a long time, it was just kind of normalized for a while. I know, like back in like 70s or 80s, it was just kind of accepted.
It's especially still like that. I mean, we're still fighting.
Right. Yeah.
To have it not normalized. I mean, in reality.
Yeah. It's still obviously that being an issue is maybe normalized isn't the right word to use there, but it's becoming more and more talked about. more and more people are coming forward to talk about, stuff like this. So I wouldn't normalize, probably isn't the right word for that to describe that, but I was going to use the word normalize.
It's more in the, topics of discussion for press and everything, just because, I mean, like I said, women are tired of it. We're taking off our high heels and smacking people in the head with not that we all wear high heels. I don't wear high heels, but you know what I mean.
I tried high heels once, and I don't understand how anybody can walk in those.
Seriously, they suck. I mean, they were made to make us look good. That's all it is. They make our butt look good.
And it's certainly a good calf workout, I guess. It's actually
if anything, it's an ankle workout, because like I'm like a newborn deer in high heels. Like it's like my ankles are like which is why I usually wear flats, because I, one, like to be comfortable.
Right.
And two, I don't need to go break my ankle the moment I step out of the house.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to bring this up because I knew, like, as soon as I saw that, I figured that's probably something you'd want to at least brush up on, I guess. Not really brush up on, but at least talk about a little bit.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of.
There's so many things that could happen that we could discuss when it comes to women.
Yeah. And we're kind of getting the tail end of this whole situation at Riot. But
right, yeah. I mean, I don't know too much about it too, which is why I can't say too much about it. But
plus, I gave you the topics like at the last minute last night, so I didn't really have time to look into it a whole lot.
Right.
But this whole Riot Games thing has been going on for a long time, and like I said, Game Dev Unchained has. They had a couple podcast episodes where they dedicated the entire episode to talking about Riot Games. They do this thing they have this segment, or sometimes they'll do full episodes on something called Glassdoor Confessions, where they go look at certain workplaces. They'll look at Glassdoor, the job search website. They'll look at people's reviews and comments, a lot of times anonymously. Or even have somebody on the inside give them a quote or whatever. Again, usually anonymously to protect themselves, but they'll do this thing. Like I said, they do this thing called Glassdoor Confessions, where they actually take people's comments and feedback on certain workplaces. And Riot Games came up quite a bit. But I mean, they talked about that a lot more once the lawsuit started to gain a little bit more traction and started to come into the spotlight. But Riot Games has definitely been like one of the top developers to talk about when it comes to gender discrimination. Like when you think of gender discrimination in the workplace, as far as the game industry goes, Riot Games is like one of the first things to come up, thanks to something like this. You've never had, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, there's never been a developer that's had an issue like that so bad that they have 150 of their employees walk out one day. Like, that's pretty bad.
For sure.
If it's so bad that your employees feel the need to do a strike, like, you need to do something about that. It shouldn't get that bad.
Now, my question about the 150 people, I want to know if it's just people, or if it was 150 women. Probably people, right? I feel like they wouldn't have 150 women, as sad as that is.
Type of reports that over 150. It sounds like just 150 employees in general.
Yeah, just employees. Okay.
Over 150 discontented Riot Games employees walked out of the League of Legends publisher's offices in Los Angeles today. This would have been March 6th. Or excuse me, May 6th.
I'm actually May. Yeah, I'm looking at a picture right now. There's men and women.
Yeah. So they did they definitely did a full-on walkout people in general who were sick of something like this. And
the woman who's leading it looks like a badass. You go, lady.
But it's like,
she's got a megaphone and everything.
I know there's going to be some men that don't like that, because it wouldn't be a cultural issue if there weren't people who would have a problem with women having equal pay, which how is that going to affect you? Your pay is going to be equal.
Exactly.
They're just going to get paid what they deserve.
It's because there's still people out there who think that because they're a man and because they work harder and blah 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 blah, which is not true, that they deserve more pay, when in reality a lot of women have to work twice as hard just to like overcompensate, because they're trying to be, you know, in the spotlight. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You have to put yourself forward a lot more because of being a woman. And it's like, why is that still, it's 2019. Why is that still a thing?
Right. I mean, I've even been put up against my husband once, which was complete BS. Like we both worked at a Subway in where we live now, and I have been working at a Subway for years, like at least 2 years, and they opened a new store, and then there was a position to become the manager of that store, and then my husband had started working there. I think he was there for maybe 6 months at least, and then he got the job.
Yeah, see, that's...
I'm like, what the hell? Like, I'm still salty about it. Like, I was there. I opened the store. Like, come on, guys. Like, do I want to work at a Subway? No way in hell. But I'm just saying, like, as an example, like, I was even pushed over. Not that it was his doing. Not that it was, my husband's doing. But I was even like pushed. They even pushed me aside for my husband, which was just stupid.
But yeah, it's like people in general just need to be judged based on their work alone. Not work alone. Obviously, if they work hard and do good work, but they have a terrible attitude, that's gonna go into play too. But I mean,
they're gonna have a bad attitude if they're being sexually harassed.
Yeah, obviously. But it's like, that's something that I thought about. Like,
and that could be anything from physical to, emotional or verbal too.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was called sweetie and stuff when I worked at past jobs. Like, it's just like, don't do that.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's ridiculous that in 2019, this is still an issue, when this was an issue that was starting to come to light, even in like the 50s, like when women were just trying to get the right to vote, which, you got, obviously, women can vote just as much as far as I know, right?
You kind of cut out, so I'm not really sure what you asked.
Like earning the right to vote back in like the 50s or 60s or 70s, whenever that was, I forget. But shoot, it is escaping my mind right now. I should know this, and I want to say it's the 17th Amendment. Women's right to vote was passed. 1920. I was way off.
Yeah. Yeah, because it was like the 18th Amendment?
Yeah, so it would have been a while back. I was thinking like the 50s. Jeez.
No, it was way more than that.
Yeah, back in 1920.
Yeah.
Jeez, I was 30 years off.
Yeah.
I'm starting to not remember a lot of history stuff. I'm gonna have to.
The 50s and 60s were more of segregation.
Oh yeah, that's right. Okay. But yeah,
back when our parents basically were born, that was still going on. Sad.
Yeah. Which one? The segregation.
The segregation.
Okay.
Oh, it's the 19th Amendment. Jessica, you are failing as a woman today. Okay.
But
I was close. I said 17.
Oh, but yeah, women in the workforce has been an ongoing issue for. I mean, you think of like Mad Men, for example, as like the height of it, or when it really started to happen. The time period of Mad Men, which was what, the 50s, maybe earlier.
Yeah. I only watched like the first season. I'm not gonna lie.
Mad Men time period.
60s.
Yeah, the 60s. So I mean, that's really when women started to fight a little bit more within the workplace, I think. I'm not that educated on the topic in general. That's something I'd have to do a little bit more research on, but I think that's really when women in general started to fight for their rights within the workplace. And I mean, you guys are still fighting, and it's like, this is 50 years later, more than 50 years later. Why hasn't it should be changed a lot more.
Well, and especially, and also, I mean, I think for a lot of these jobs, I mean, there's this, you always will have, which I don't like saying this, but you'll always have the sexual harassment stuff.
Unfortunately.
But for when it comes to like the equal pay and the more like logistical parts of it, of man versus woman, I think that depends on who your higher ups are and what their age range is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like really, if you have someone who's like 30 years old, you know, they get it. They're here for it. You know, if you have, you know, the baby boomers and all that stuff, like you're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
They don't like or understand anything that's going on right now.
And unfortunately, a major chunk of that generation doesn't care to change.
Right. Exactly. They don't want to, they don't care.
And I'm not saying that the entire generation is like that, but it's like, obviously they're from a different time period, changing their ways after however many years they've been around is hard, but that doesn't make it an excuse. You know, some of them
it's not an excuse. We change every single day.
Yeah.
Millennials were taught, I mean, look at millennials. Millennials were taught certain things by baby boomers and the Gen X people. I mean, we were taught certain things and then we educated ourselves and now we know what's actually going on.
Right.
So we've changed.
Plus being in the information age or the technology, whatever age this is, not the internet age, technological revolution, informational revolution, whatever you want to call this general time period, also leaves us open to much faster information. Like something could major thing could happen across the world and it's not going to take us almost a month to hear about it. We're going to hear about it as it's happening because somebody's going to be live streaming it on their phone and all of a sudden every media outlet is on it. Which I think is very helpful for us because we know exactly what's going on when it's happening. But that also makes us more aware of certain things like sexual harassment in the workplace. We hear about it all the time. And it's not always, men harassing women, but that's going to be the more, that's going to be the commonality.
Yeah, it is possible for women to harass men. Absolutely. I'm not saying it's not.
No, I'm not saying that that's what you're saying, but sexual harassment, I think in general is going to continue to happen. I think nowadays people speak out more, which I think can help combat it. And you know,
well, I mean, look at the media. Look at all the people who have gone to jail or have lost their jobs because of it.
Yeah, or their reputations were destroyed because of it.
Well,
well,
I wouldn't say that, but I mean, should we give a little flashback to the college person who did terrible things to a woman and lost nothing over it?
We can say his name, although I'm blanking on his name.
That doesn't matter. We shouldn't give him the right to say his name.
Yeah, that's capitalism at the work right there. Kids are rich. He's rich, so of course his parents could get him a lawyer a lawyer that could, where they focus on him, being a good swimmer. It's like, okay, no one's saying
Yeah.
he's a bad swimmer, but that's
Like,
irrelevant to the
he'll
case.
lose his swimming in his college and blah blah blah. Yep,
I'm sure. Yeah,
that's the
I'm
thing
sure.
to focus on. Good job, guys.
But either way, I mean, something at Riot Games or in an office probably won't. Obviously, is not going to be something as extreme as that.
No, well,
You
hopefully
wouldn't.
not.
Well, hopefully not. Right. But that is an extreme case of sexual harassment. That's not even harassment. That's straight up. I don't know if rape would be an explicit term, but it was straight up rape.
Yeah.
There's no denying that. But either way, this whole thing with Riot Games obviously is more than just sexual harassment. It's it's general sexism, unequal pay, and Riot is obviously paying for it because they've been in the spotlight for pretty bad. They're making a bad name for themselves, but hopefully this is the first step to changing that. Obviously, we're probably going to hear more about it later on as the lawsuit starts to dwindle away, which they've settled it, so the lawsuit's no longer happening, but I don't know how it was settled. I don't know if they actually have the details specifically. It might have been in the company statement, but obviously they reached something to settle it, but
right.
I don't really have anything else to say on that.
Well, there's always something else to say, but I'm gonna not.
Yeah. I don't really have anything else specifically on Riot Games.
No.
There's a lot more to talk about as far as that specific topic, but I'm sure we could go on and on for hours for that. But yeah, so the whole Riot Games thing sounds like it's starting to come to an end after roughly 2 years. No, about a year that it's been in the spotlight, because it was filed in November of last year. So it's definitely been going on for a year or two.
Yeah, I mean, most cases, big cases like this, tend to go on for a few years. So
yeah, but yeah, that's kind of the last major topic. I don't think there's anything breaking that's happening right now.
No, we'll find out an hour after we stop recording.
Well, because the whole Game Informer thing happened while we were recording. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's really anything breaking.
No. You know what is breaking?
What?
Life is Strange Episode 4.
I haven't played it yet. But that's a good segue into what we're playing. Yeah, I guess I spent most of the weekend playing more Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I played the first chapter of the Fate of Atlantis DLC, which is gorgeous. Like that.
Is it all underwater?
Not really. It's surrounded by water. Like if you remember what the Rising Falls look like at Hollow Bastion in Kingdom Hearts, it's a little bit like that, but they're not rising falls; they're just regular waterfalls. But it's like all in a circle. I took some screenshots, but
it's like a sunken kind of crater with just water.
A little bit, yeah. It basically
I can see it in my head.
It's essentially the underworld because it takes place in ancient Greece, and like the main person you're interacting with is Persephone, or how they pronounce it. Persephone is how they pronounce it in there. I wonder if that's I'm guessing that might be the actual Greek pronunciation.
I thought it was Persephone. That's how I was always told. That's crazy. Yeah. Okay. But
if you don't know who that is, that was Odysseus's wife in the Odyssey. And in this, she's basically one of the Isu, which any Assassin's Creed fans will know what the Isu are. It's the first civilization, the people that essentially created Adam and Eve as a science experiment. That it's a whole long story. It's the whole fiction of Assassin's Creed, but But yeah, I spent most of my weekend playing that. I meant to play Life is Strange episode 4, but never got around to it.
So
I was
good.
super into that.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. I hopped around quite a bit this weekend,
Hmm.
which is interesting because I was actually pretty busy this weekend, but I still played a good amount of video games. But yeah, I did Life is Strange episode 4. I actually played that. I played that Sunday. Like I got it all done on Sunday, and then it finished. And I looked at my husband. I didn't look at him, but I like basically screamed in the apartment. I'm like, great, my life is meaningless now till December. So yeah, no, it was really good. It touched on a lot of major real life topics.
Okay.
As the game has been doing. But it touched on a lot of topics that could be taboo, but they did it really well.
Like politically?
It did not have anything to do with. Well, there was one thing that had to do with their heritage.
Oh, okay.
There was one thing in the beginning of the episode, which I yelled a lot of expletives at the TV for that. But the rest of it has to do with like just other kind of bigger things in the world. I don't want to say anything because I don't want to give it away to people who are listening and you. But it's very good. So I did that. I picked up Ori last weekend, so I played a little bit more of that.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
Wait, was that last weekend?
I think so, because you put it on Twitter at some point.
Yeah, I picked that up because I didn't want to wait anymore because it was available. Why not? So I've played a little bit of that. It's a really frustrating game.
Yeah, it's kind of it's supposed to be like a really challenging, like it's supposed to be like one of those super challenging platformers. Like I don't think it's as intense or as punishing as like Super Meat Boy, but it's still within that vein.
Yeah.
And I think it's supposedly a Metroidvania too.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, but I've never played it. It's always been on my backlog.
I didn't know what it was going to be like. I had seen that people like it, and I had saw the how beautiful it is from the trailer.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, this looks like a game I dig. I'm sad that the bad guy's an owl because I love owls. But I mean, it's a gorgeous game. The music is beautiful. The story so far is really like heartfelt. But holy Jesus, I have rage quit that game so many times. But it's still good. So I'll still go back to it. But yeah, so I played Ori, I played Life is Strange. I hopped back on Destiny for a little bit because of Shadowkeep coming out. And I feel like I played something else, but I don't remember. Portal Knights a little bit, but that was it.
I think I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey the entire weekend. Whenever I was playing a game, I think I was up until I was up late Sunday night finishing it. But like there's a boss battle in that was super tough. They made a you know what? That's going to be part of the second episode, I think, or the second chapter. I don't want to spoil it because the ending of that first chapter teases a couple. I don't want to spoil anything, but they do reference an artifact that's definitely been prominent within the Assassin's Creed lore. An artifact that's relatively famous, especially in the first few games. And anyone who played the originals probably know exactly what artifact I'm talking about. And what it can do to people. But anyway, I don't want to spoil it because I'm getting into spoiler territory if I say anything else. But yeah, that DLC focuses basically on a part of the first civilization. So it's like you're interacting with people within the Isu race, which we've never really done before in the games other than telepathically through time. That's what I was playing. This week, actually, I have... Where did it go? I have a list of a lot of the games that are coming out this week. And one that I can't wait to play is actually out today. WoW Classic launched today, too. Control, Remedy's new game, which I said Quantic Dream last week. That was a mistake. Quantic Dream makes... crap, I can't think of the games now. Quantic Dream did not make Control. But Remedy made Quantum Dream? Quantum Break, yes. They made Quantum Break. And for some reason, I thought it was Quantic Dream that made that, but that was not correct. But so Control is, I'm probably going to run to, I don't know if it comes out with a physical copy, but I might go to GameStop to pick that up. Either way, Control comes out. I definitely want to play that. On Thursday, nothing comes out Thursday. On Friday, Astral Chain, Blair Witch, and The Dark Pictures, Man of Medan comes out.
That's right.
I want to play Blair Witch, and I want to check out The Dark Pictures. So that's 3 games this week that I want to get, and I don't know if I have enough money in my games budget to actually do that. Because I also have wedding stuff to get this week, because I'm in a wedding this weekend, and fun. I still have to get a dress shirt for the suit. But
anyway. You can get that at Kohl's.
Yeah, most likely. But yeah, so I'm probably going to end up playing Control this week. But I already downloaded. I still need to play Life is Strange episode 4. I still want to keep playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, because I do want to finish that. That's the bulk of what I will probably be playing this week, and what I have been playing the last weekend.
Yeah,
I think that's really all we have to talk about. So if you like this, make sure that you leave a like, leave a comment wherever you're listening. Make sure to leave us a review, because it helps us gain some traction. And share it with your friends. You can find BigSlice Games at BigSlice Games over on Facebook, on Twitter, and on... Nope, just kidding. That's it. YouTube. Excuse me. You can find the podcast on Spotify, on iTunes, on SoundCloud, and like I said, on YouTube at a later day, because it takes longer to edit. But yeah, leave a comment, leave a review, like us, subscribe to us, share it with your friends, all that jazz. You can find me on Twitter at Strobe Official. That's STROBBE Official. And you can find BigSlice Games at all of those that I just said. Jessica, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at PhoenixLeeJS, or you can, if you are interested in seeing my photography business, look it up. It's JL Boone Photography on all handles. So,
and all of those will be in the show notes and the YouTube description. And you can just click on those. It should take you right to those pages. Thank you so much for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.